Welcome to the Sociology Coach. Today we're learning what sociology is and exploring two powerful concepts that will completely change how you see the world: the sociological eye and the sociological imagination. These ideas are the foundation of sociology, and by the end of this episode, you'll understand why they matter in everyday life. Hey there, I'm Dr. Stephanie Medley-Rath. I've been teaching sociology for over 20 years. I'm the author of Introduction to Sociology, and I run the Sociology Coach to help people like you make sense of the world. Let's dive in. Sociology is a scientific study of the behavior and attitudes of people and groups. It's not just about individuals. It's about understanding the bigger picture. Sociologists ask questions like, why do people behave the way they do? And how do social structures influence our choices? First up is the sociological eye. This is the ability to notice social patterns and behaviors that most people overlook. It's about being curious and observant. For example, when you walk into a coffee shop, you might just see people ordering drinks. But with the sociological eye, you notice social norms, roles, and even power dynamics. Why do people form lines? Why do some sit alone while others gather in groups? These observations help us understand the invisible rules of society. The sociological eye helps us see beyond the obvious. It allows us to identify social forces that shapes behavior and attitudes. Without it, we miss the deeper meaning behind everyday actions. In other words, a sociological eye encourages us to look deep and wide to understand why people do things and think as they do. Social forces are the influences on our behaviors and attitudes. Social forces include all the groups we belong to: our gender, race, age, religion, family, school, community, and more. All these groups influence our behaviors and attitudes. They do not determine our actions, but they do shape the choices of action that are available to us. While the sociological eye helps us to see the broader social forces shaping everyday life, the sociological imagination helps us understand the connection between these forces and our lives. If you want to take this lesson further, visit my website. I've got study guides and resources waiting for you there. Check for that link in the description. Now let's talk about the sociological imagination, a concept introduced by U.S. sociologist C. Wright Mills. He had several contributions to sociology, including his books, The Sociological Imagination and The Power Elite. In The Sociological Imagination, Mills wrote, "Neither the life of an individual nor the history of a society can be understood without understanding both." What do you think he meant by that? In other words, to understand an individual's choices, we must also understand what choices were available to them, and history is shaped by these choices. The sociological imagination is the ability to connect personal experiences to larger social forces. It's about asking, how does my life relate to history and society? For example, if you're struggling to pay tuition, it's not just your personal problem. It's tied to how college education is funded in the United States, economic policies around wages, who is expected to pay the cost of college, and broader social inequality. The cost of college and who pays the cost is also tied to the historical time period. Wages have declined, tuition has increased, and states' funding to colleges has declined. Therefore, it is more difficult for students to pay for college in the 2020s compared to students in the past when wages kept up better with the cost of living, states provided more funding, and tuition was lower. One of Mills's major contributions is how the sociological imagination helps us think about whether something is a personal trouble or a public issue. The cost of college is a public issue, not just a personal trouble. Mills explained that many personal troubles are actually public issues. Troubles affect an individual, and others may not share the experience. Issues affect many people and are outside a person's control. This perspective helps us see the bigger picture. Let's pause and think about another example. Is unemployment a personal trouble, public issue, or both? What leads you to this conclusion? When determining whether unemployment is a personal trouble or public issue, there are many things to think about. Why might a person be unemployed? What personal characteristics contribute to unemployment? How might unemployment be shaped by social forces beyond the individual? What individual factors that contribute to unemployment might be a result of structural factors? Sociologists encourage us to ask these kinds of questions. We want you to see how personal experiences like the cost of college or losing a job connect to larger social forces. Let's break it down. Some reasons for unemployment are personal troubles. For example, maybe someone lacks the skills or education needed for available jobs. They might have poor references, limited work history, or simply choose not to apply for jobs. However, there are also public issues at play. Economic recessions can wipe out jobs for entire communities. Sometimes the skills needed for available jobs don't match the skills people actually have. And jobs may require credentials that aren't truly necessary, making it harder for people to get hired. So what do you think? Is unemployment just a personal trouble, or is it also a public issue? Sociologists urge us to look beyond the individual and consider how social forces, like the kinds of jobs that are available and the expense of college, shape our experiences. Unemployment is always a personal trouble for the person experiencing it, but often it's also a public issue that affects many people and is outside any one person's control. When we use our sociological imagination, we can see how personal challenges are connected to broader social patterns. So remember, developing your sociological eye means looking beyond individual choices to see the broader patterns and social forces shaping our lives. The sociological imagination connects your personal experiences to larger historical and social contexts. The more you practice using these perspectives, the more you'll understand, not just about your own life, but the world around you. What's one thing you know now that you didn't know before? Share in the comments. And of course, if you found this episode helpful, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next episode.